So the big upcoming event I want to talk about is the International Online Reach Mahjong Championship, and that's coming up this weekend. So I qualified for the team again, and this will be my third time competing in this event for the US team. So if you don't know about it, what it is it's just an online competition, and each participating country selects 4 players to play for the team. And then in the team event, all all players play 4 matches, and then the team score is just the sum of all the individuals on the team, their scores. So, um, in the past, so in 2016, I ended up getting 14th, which is pretty good, I think. Of course, I wanted to do a little bit better, but you can't really be disappointed with 14th out of 68. The US team got 6th. Then the next year, I got 27th, and the US team got 7th. So that's how the past results went. And then for qualifications, each country does their own way of selecting players. This time, the US players for the US team were selected through 5 qualifying rounds, and you had to play at least 2. If you played 4 or more, you got to drop your lowest score. So I was going to be playing 4 this year, 4 qualifying rounds, and it was really intense this year. So the first year I played, um, I got in late because I wasn't a part of any community or anything, so I didn't know about the event until after it was already going on. But I still had a chance to qualify because there were enough remaining qualifying events that I could play in. And I just, like, so no one really knew about me, but then all of a sudden I, like, joined the community and I was pretty good and I had really good online records and stuff. So then they all kind of expected me to be pretty good. And I just, like, blew everyone out one qualifying round and, like, got first every game, I think. And then another one I got really high and got second overall, and then I just qualified off of that. And so it was like really, it felt really easy. Of course, it's because I got really lucky, but I just like went straight through and qualified. The next year, I don't exactly remember how it was. I know I played in more rounds, but I also qualified then. And then this year was really intense. So started out the first round, qualifying round. I ended up with a negative score, so that's not very good. And so I was assuming I'm just gonna have to drop that score and do really well in all the last 3 matches. So then, or the last 3 qualifying rounds. So the second round, I got 60, which is okay, but like it was 4th overall. But you can see like someone got 133, someone got 118, and um, Yuki Tora already had an average of about like 105 per qualifying round, so that's really high. So they didn't even have to play anymore. So they're like already taking the first spot essentially, or one spot. Later, Tina would score really high and pretty much lock up the second spot. So there's only 2 more spots to fight for, and I have a really bad first round and okay second round. The third round went pretty well. If I remember correctly, I think I was doing, I guess I can check. I think I was doing really well, and then I did bad the last game where I got like, yeah, I think I won the first 3. I did, and then the last one I got last, which is like, it's like, all right, if I just do really well the last one, that might be like enough to make it a lot more comfortable, but then I got a big minus. And so it's like all down to the last event for me, and there's no guarantee that I was going to make it. So that's how that's the story leading into the final qualifying event. And there's a little bit more backstory I want to tell. So, um, some time ago, I played in a live tournament at Pomme in Los Angeles. So this was like the first big tournament I've ever played in, and um, it was also one of the first live events I've ever played in, just because, or it was the first real big one, because I'd only played with my friends a couple times before, but I wasn't very familiar with real tiles, so this was an interesting experience, and it kind of started out pretty well. And I was thinking, I can do this. I just have to, like, tournament has a different mindset from 10-0, because on 10-0, you just don't want to get last and you're good. In a tournament, you really have to win and you have to get points. You can't just not get last. You don't want to end up just not last. That's not very good. You want to try to win as much as you can. So it's a real different mindset. And so I was aware of that, and I was just thinking, all right, I gotta try to get more points. I gotta keep pushing. I gotta take some risks. I gotta get more points. And while doing that, I end up like playing into a bunch of hands. You can see my score going down. And it was like, all right, now I need even more points. So I have to push even harder, take even more risks, and then it just like kept getting worse. Here, I, it went up, my score went up a little, but and then I was like pretty far down. And I just like top 8 was the cutoff, I think, for making it to the final round, and I was nowhere close to it. And um, one of the things that kind of stuck out to me was where a lot of the situations where I was like, I really have to go for it. I can't just um, play safe. I can't just defend. I have to get more points. Some of those situations, if I had just like not done that, just played safe, not gone for it, then I would have had a better chance later on to catch up. So, like, if I was down 8,000 points, if I had just folded and stayed roughly 8,000 points behind, I would have had a chance later to come back. But I pushed too hard, took too many risks, and then suddenly I was down like 16,000 points. And then it's like, well, now it's even harder. And it just kept getting harder to come back. So that was a live experience I had. Then that first qualifying round, I had the same mindset of like, I really have only top 4 qualify for the team, so I have to score a lot of points. I can't just like get second and third. So there's this thing called Oka. So first, there's a placement bonus where if you get first, you get additional points added to your score. If you get second, you get less points added to your score. Third, you lose points from your score. And fourth, you lose even more points. So there's a placement bonus. But then there's Oka too, where if you get first, you get an extra 30,000 points. So that's like a huge deal. So in a tournament like this, if you get first and fourth alternating, you're actually getting a good amount of points. And if you get second and third, you're kind of losing a little bit. And that's not a very good result. So, like I said, it's a lot different mindset from normal 10-0. So I had that in mind. And I was like, all right, there's some marginal situations where I was like, I think I have to take the risk because I really need the points. And then they just somehow never worked out. And that's part of the reason why I went negative. So all that was leading up to this fifth qualifier where I wasn't guaranteed to make it, and I really needed a big score. And it was the first Hanchan, and um, I remember it. I don't remember all the details very well. I think when I played more regularly, I would remember hands and details a lot better. But I think it was South Round, and Q had a huge lead already, and that was kind of like annoying because it's like I really want to win so I can get a bunch of points, but it doesn't even look like a comeback is possible. And I think I was in last place in the South Round. Unfortunately, I don't have the replay saved, but I had another situation where I was like, I think second place declared reach, and I was like, it's already South Round. I almost have a hand. I'm one away from 10 pi. I can't really just let them win. So I gotta take a risk here, and then, and then while while the timer was counting down, I was thinking like, I remember when I played in that live tournament, and it's like I gotta take the risk. I was like, if I just took a step back, just played it safe there, I would have had a chance later on. And then I thought about it really hard. And it's like I remember the first round of this qualifying event where maybe if I didn't push so hard every hand, I would have gone positive instead of negative. And then I was like, and then I'd folded my hand, didn't take any risks there, and then went to the end of the round and they turned up their hand, and the tile I was about to discard was the one that they would have won off of. And if I played into that hand, I probably wouldn't have come out second. So somehow I just barely scraped out a second place and went slightly positive in that round. And if I had played into that hand, I might have not even not qualified. So for me, that was just a really huge moment, and it was really exhilarating to see that I made the right choice and I learned from the past and I got a big payoff because of it. So then the second round, it was really tense the whole way. Where the second round, I think I was in third or fourth going into South 4, and all of a sudden I won some really big hands in South 4 as dealer, and I took first, so I got a huge plus. Then the third round, I was about to get last, but I think I won a hand at the end to save third, so I avoided a big minus. And in the fourth round, the way the scores played out, it was um, the person who was so two qualifiers were essentially locked up, two spots, and then everyone from 6 down was so far back it was unreasonable to expect any of them to move up. So it was between these three people who's going to qualify, and then this person had such a large minus already for the fifth round that it was they had such a huge minus that it was pretty much guaranteed they're gonna just drop that score because they had three other positive scores. So that means we knew, me and Korak knew what score we needed to get essentially to qualify. And the way it worked out is if we get second or first, we're gonna qualify pretty much, and if we get third or fourth, we're not gonna qualify because it's you needed to get a positive. If I got plus minus 0, I'd qualify pretty much. And if I got negative, I wouldn't qualify. And it's pretty much getting second or getting third. And then after all that build up, the final round ended up not being very dramatic because one person dropped out, so they're connected, but they didn't actually play, and they just discarded every tile they drew. So essentially, it was almost impossible to get last. Not quite, because sometimes you deal into hands and you end up getting falling back anyway. But last was mostly out of the picture. And then to start out, I drew a bunch of really big hands from the start of the round, and then never really got into any dangerous situations. So I had like a comfortable lead the whole way. For Korak, it was a bit more nerve-wracking probably, but he managed to close out with second at the end. So um, we were the final two qualifiers. So that was like it was like a really intense qualifying round. But um, Mahjong is a really luck-based game, so even if you're a really good player, even if you're like way better than your opponents, and I'm not saying that I am, but even if you are, you're never guaranteed to end up winning a match, which in some ways, like, it has its that's good and bad. So if you're trying to figure out who's the best, that's not good. But in terms of just playing a game, one thing that I think is nice about it is you can play with a random person who isn't very good, but you can still have an enjoyable match with them. Where in other games, like in a fighting game, there's um, in the one I'm really good at, if I play someone who's like even pretty good, just not super good, it can be like 10-0. They don't have a chance really. And it's like, even though they've played so much, practiced so much, they're pretty good. The match is so one sided that it's like hardly worth playing essentially. It's not very enjoyable. But for a game like Mahjong, you can kind of just play with anyone way better or way worse than you and still have an enjoyable match. So it's like good and bad. Now, something else to talk about is now that I qualified, the pairings are out for the actual team event. So in my first round, I didn't see any real shocking or scary names. I don't necessarily know all these players, so some of them might actually be really good and I just don't know them, but nothing stood out. Second round, I'm playing against like tough, pretty well known people. So like this person is in the competitive reach Discord and they're known to be really strong. They're like they were once 8 Dan, they're now 7 Dan. Someone else on that table is 7 Dan currently. Right now, the highest I've ever gotten is 7 Dan, but right now I'm 6 Dan. So those people might be better than me. Then my third round table is pretty tough too, so let's see. This guy is currently 8 Dan. Then Xkime is a really famous player and he's currently 7 Dan and he's on that table. And a Japan representative is on that table. So they didn't have a really they didn't have many games played on that account on Tenho, but they might be really good anyway. So that table looks really tough. This one, none of the names really stood out like some of the other ones. So, I mean, doesn't seem like an easy draw necessarily, but I don't know if you can really expect for an easy draw in an event like this. But anyway, I hope it I hope I can do well. I really want to make it to the individual part, which is for the top 16 individuals. in the team tournament, which sounds kind of funny that it's counting individuals from the team tournament, but um, yeah, if you're in the top 16 as an individual in the individual rankings, you get to play in the individual event in 2 weeks after that. So that's what I'm going to be going for, but I don't know if I can make it. There's not much I can do to like. There's only so much I can do, and a lot of it will come down to luck. Now, some other things are so with La Pomme, some of the members of the U.S. team did these practice matches, so you can check those out if you want. For me, it felt like this table is really an honor to play the opponents. It's an honor to play against opponents like this. So Shisho is like I I don't know if he's considered the best player from La Pomme, but he's really strong and he generally plays offline. I think Daisuke is like maybe the best American player or one of the best. Dopo is Hooi, so or Tenhoi, I mean. So he's reached the top rank on Tenno, so he's like one of the strongest players on essentially the strongest on Tenno. So this was an interesting match. All I had to do was beat Dopo for our team to win, but well, it didn't happen. Spoiler alert. Then with La Palm also I did this podcast thing, so you can check that out if you want. Um, the one live tournament I played was at La Palm too, so I had a good time there. And if you're interested in Mahjong stuff, I'd recommend checking out their stuff. Then last thing was there's this um, Mahjong tournament coming up with the Competitive Reach Hub Discord, which is just a place where people discuss a lot of strategies for Mahjong, or Reach Mahjong at least, and they're putting on a tournament. It's going to be an elimination tournament, so top two advance and bottom two are out, I think, is the format. Yeah, and so I think that'll be an interesting event, and anyone can participate in it. And in some ways, like I was saying earlier, a lot of it is luck. So even if you don't think you're that good, I'd say if you're interested in it, you should play anyway. Because first of all, you might just get lucky and win, and it'll probably be fun to play anyway. So I'll post a link to this or something in the description, and that's all I have for this video.